Recording started.
Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 508. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my old co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. Welcome to the show. We're going to have a great show. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Jenny Gonzalez. She is on the communities team, and we're going to be talking about all things community. And specifically, we're upgrading our community platform, VMTN, to a new version, a new vendor called Lithium. We're going to talk through what that means, new community features that are going to be coming out. So we have an exciting show to you today. Corey Romero, how are you doing today?
Hey, Eric, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Giving all things considered, I think this is like week 4 living in my house. So, I'm staying sane. How about yourself?
Yeah, trying to. Luckily, we've got some separate rooms where, I've got my own office and my wife has her own office. So a little bit of separation there. And so, that's always good. But yeah, staying sane, absolutely.
It is true, and sanity, as Graham says, sanity is just a relative concept. So all right. Well, relatively sane here as we move into today's podcast. So in the news today, we do have some news happening on. The biggest one is that VMworld announced that it's going virtual. So Corey, what are you thinking about a virtual VMworld? I mean, I got my own opinions, but I don't think I'm allowed to share it.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting, right? Especially with all the conferences going virtual. I don't know any of the details, but I do know that, sessions are still going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of participation. I think there actually might be more participation only because it's easier to access. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, my take is slightly differently. I think I think we're going to do it. I think that the content is king. I think the directories of content is going to be king. And so it's going to be a really nice way to gather up all the content, all the presentations from people, and put them online so you can consume them at your leisure. Yeah. But we've always done that.
Content is always king.
Right. But we've always done that. So that's not really the value prop for VMworld. Yeah, it is. You get the sessions and you want to see the sessions. But the VMworld for me was going, meeting people, engaging with people, being in the city, hitting all these people that you work with online all year. You finally get to see them and meet them and chat with them for even only 5 minutes. I think we're not going to get that this year, or it's going to be hard to do. So I think It's just going to be the year of disappointments from, my kids are graduating, so I don't get to go to graduation. My oldest is my third is graduating from Carnegie Mellon, and he's not going to do that. My fourth, my youngest, he's graduating from high school. He's going to go to University of Chicago. I don't get that as well. He doesn't get a graduation. And even him starting at the university next September, I'm not even sure that's going to happen for him. So there's a lot of little disappointments that are happening throughout this pandemic, right? And I think that VMworld is going to be one of those, right, where we're going to do the best we can. Chicago does, nice online. Here's the campus. This is what it's going to look like. Everybody's doing their best to try to make this a good experience, given what constraints we're under. But it is going to be one of these things where you just go, oh, yeah, all right. And so I think we're going to do the best we can. I think everybody's in this together. Everybody wants to share what they've learned this year. Everybody wants to talk about all the new features in vSphere 7. I wanted to talk about Kubernetes and YAML files and all the things that are now, you can run right in vSphere. So I was pretty excited about this year. I think I was telling you that, Corey, that this year was going to be a pretty exciting year to be at the show. Kind of had some cool labs designed. Now we get to do some online components, so we'll do those and we'll talk through that. But that's where we're at. So that's my assessment. And we'll just have to live with that and do the best we can. So
Yep.
Yeah, and not that, but the details of VMworld Online isn't necessarily settled yet. They're still working through all the logistics of how to run it. Do we pre-record content? Do we do live streaming content? What are some of the activities? Are the keynotes going to be live? What does it actually look like? Do we have specialized content areas that we could add additional value? So they're taking a look at all of this stuff, and so we don't actually have answers to all of it yet. In fact, we're talking to Alistair Cook about the V Brown Bag sessions. So community sessions, they normally have a theater. They're normally in Schedule Builder. We've spent the last 5 years refining this so that they're part of the show. But when we go online, what does that mean, right? So we're working with Alistair to figure that out. And we don't know yet. So we're still going through details with the event team to see what this is going to look like and how we capture all the community content. We will talk about VMware Code and Power Sessions. So we are making a shift on that already. So we'll talk about that. And I think that's my COVID update for this week. Is lots of things moving online for VMworld. We go into momentum season. This is going to shift what we do and how we do it. So, and we're working through all those things. And even podcasts. You're listening to this podcast, you're probably not on a commute right now. A lot of the listeners that we get every week are commuting, and so they listen to it on their phone on iTunes. We don't get that. We don't get those listeners. If you look at our numbers now, our numbers are down by 60% because people aren't commuting. Right, so they don't have time. And
right.
How many sessions can you possibly consume online before you're just completely burnt out? So maybe we'll pick up some more podcast listeners, because after a while, I think everybody's going to burn out on screen time and just going to want to go for walks and listen to the stuff in your headphones. So maybe that'll work out. I have a color of the bay. We don't want to miss the color of the bay, and we will do a barbecue report at the end of the show again. So color of the bay, it is a beautiful sunny day in California. We've got 5 days of sun, and it's in the 70s. So beautiful, crisp, cool weather. The color of the bay is a very light green. It's not windy, so it's pretty clean. It's not very wavy, so it's a beautiful Northern California day, crisp, but sunny and warm. So it is a good time to get out and walk around. Our parks and stuff are still closed, but we can go for walks. And so we actually did a 5-mile walk this morning. It is a beautiful day in California. So of all of the COVID stuff, I guess getting out and actually walking around has been a good thing. So Corey, what's new with the experts? Anything going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. So I had met with the team about 3 weeks ago, and we have a new sub-program. It was kind of, on the fence, just waiting to hear back from the BU. It was finalized this morning, and we will be kicking off shortly the vExpert application modernization sub-program, and that will be headed up by, I had his name here, sorry, Keith Lee. So that'll be headed up by Keith Lee.
Keith Lee. All right. App modernization subgroup on the vExpert program. That is awesome. And yeah, good to know that. We do have a code coaches program for the VMware code that Kripa's been rolling out. So another way to engage there with a lot of experts. So I appreciate everybody doing that work and, contributing to, evangelizing our messages and our content. So nice. One more side before we get into the Jenny Gonzalez and VMTN. Corey, I heard that you went out camping and motorcycle riding. I just want to live through your experience. Could you give me just some highlights of what it's like to be out in the wilderness?
Yeah, please, Corey, please.
Yeah, so every year we do an annual father-son trip, and it's usually between 60 and 100 people who go out, fathers and sons. And this year, everybody canceled, right? So I still took my boys out. It's in northern Nevada. We went out and went dirt bike riding for 4 days. Had an absolute fantastic time. It was really nice to be out in the sun all day long, right? Even feeling the sun hitting the back of your neck, knowing you're getting a little bit red was just fantastic, right? Get up, walk around, get on the dirt bike, get some exercise. It was almost like I had my life back.
That's awesome.
I'm
totally jelly of that, right? Like I definitely want to be out in the sun. I'm tired of walking. I did mow my grass. I guess that counts, but that's awesome. All right. So much for the chit chat. Let's get back to what we're doing here today, which is all about community, which is why I'm kind of enjoying the community dialogue. Jenny Gonzalez, welcome to the show. Nice to see
Hey
you
there.
again.
Yeah, you too.
That's good. So, Jenny Gonzalez, we always start with who are you? What do you do for a living? What's your career arc been like? And then we'll get into the topic, which is the VMTN program, VMware Technical Network, and the community platform we're running it on. And we're just going to talk all about community and value props for the interview. So, first, tell us, who are you? What do you do? How long?
Yeah, well, so I'm Jenny. I work actually with Eric. I'm the VMTN community manager, so kind of heading this whole upgrade. I've been with VMware now about 2 years, so just realized that actually today. So getting
congrats! I need an air horn.
Yeah, I think next month actually, but pretty close. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this upgrade. I think, like you said, it's been on Jive, what we're on currently, for about 10 years. So definitely needing an upgrade.
So for people that might not know, which I gotta imagine everybody knows, give us the 30-second VMTN. What is it?
Yeah, so VMTN is, like you said, VMware Technology Network. So we're a community of forums and different things online that you can just kind of contribute your knowledge to, get answers from. You can, just go on there and talk to people. There's tons of different forums and documents, different things that you can find a lot of information on.
Right. So unlike VMUG, where you go to meetings and you meet people and engage, this is a community platform where you can come online and engage with people. And community in VMware is more even than just a single platform, right? It is a whole bunch of locations. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's who you are. You've been here 2 years. You've been working on communities. So maybe we should talk a little bit about, online communities, right? And get a little bit of a history of online communities, right? Maybe I can take us up to the Jive timeline, right? So online communities are actually interesting because people ask me this all the time, like, what's the difference between VMUG and VMTN, right? And what's that look like? And communities in the early days, in the 80s, it was really when the internet showed up, or ARPANET showed up. We figured out that, and dial-in modems at 1200 baud, you figured out that we could share stuff online, right? And most of it was stuff that people wrote, a lot of little apps, little games, all kinds of stuff. And this was pre-internet days. So community turned into this online BBS system where you could upload one thing, download 10 things, and it would keep track of that. So once you downloaded 10 things, it would go, sorry, you're out of downloads. Please upload something to refresh your license or your ability to download 10 more things. So it'd keep track of that. And that was kind of online communities where you had most guys like myself, we would set up banks of maybe 7 or 8 phone lines with modems that would come into a single x86 server. Back then, the first one I ran was on a 286 IBM AT, and that was your community platform. And there was BBS platform there, and we ran communities, and it was all about sharing content. And a lot of the content was written content that people had developed, right? Built nice little cool applications. Some of the content was stolen, right? That people would figure out how to hack it and crack it. So the original crack market, cracking software license keys came from those early BBS days. But then, license world shifted, and it just became sharing content, sharing experiences, and the whole sharing component, which took us up to the 2000s when the full, when browsers started taking over the way we interacted with, instead of getting a client and running an application to share things to a BBS, dialing in, etc. Now all of a sudden you were on web properties, and web communities started showing up. So this enters, I think, 2002, 2003 for VMware, where VMware really started becoming a corporate company sometime around 2000, 2001. By 2003, they had Jive Forums, which was a cool little, I think it was PHP or Perl. I can't remember what the language was. Super fast. Just was question and answer based. Answer questions, ask questions, answer questions. So classic forums. When By 2005, 2006, it started to mature to the point where online communities was also places you could say hello, give people winks, get credit for things that you were doing. So they didn't introduce the upload download, but they did introduce a way to encourage you to do things. So that's kind of the history of communities up until Jive communities. And then Jive communities, Jenny, why don't you just take us through some of the major features you get from a Jive community that we've been running for the last 8 years?
Yeah, so like I said, you can go in, ask questions. A lot of the time, your questions are probably already there, so you can search for them, find quick answers. You can even go in and contribute your own knowledge. We have a lot of people that do that, that are our super users. They're on all day. Um, we also have an option, like Eric said, for downloads, documents. You can find things for different products that we have, beta programs, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of goodies.
I know there's actually integrations between the community platform and the documentation. So documentation has links into community posts right in the docs themselves. So there's been an integration so that even our products have started to integrate into the community activities, right? So
Definitely.
when you go to community activities and you're engaging there, you actually see that in our product documentation, as well as some integrations into VMware.com, right? So that's kind of the integration between communities where it went from purely forums directly into kind of a community platform. Then over time, we've actually seen it expand into kind of gamification, where this is the upload download. So why don't we talk about Jive gamification? What does that actually mean, and how many people do we have that experience that?
Yeah. So, going in when you answer questions, if you ask questions, if you answer a question correctly or mark a answer correctly, you get points depending on what action you took. So, we do have, like I said, the super users who have been on for so many years, and they get these badges once they complete a certain level. So, each tier has its own badge. Definitely a nice way to show that you've accomplished what you have, and the knowledge that you've uh, contributed to the community. So
Right.
it's a nice thing to see.
And we have some guys or people that have contributed and they have literally million points, right? Or some
Yeah.
very large numbers where they started in 2003 answering questions, continually accumulating points to where what's the highest level that you get as a badge?
I don't quite remember, but I did want to point out that Luke Deckins this past year reached the highest that anyone else has. So shouting out Luke for that, because that was quite an accomplishment.
I should go back to the chat because somebody I'm sure is going to tell me what the highest badge is on the community platform. I want to say genius, but I'm not
I
sure.
was going to say, I feel like it's genius, but I don't remember if it's
It's
that or
genius, and the
expert or
icon is the
something.
brain. A few years
Yeah.
ago at VMworld, we actually printed out the icons. Were you here, Jenny, when we did that? Where we made
No.
big poster size, where you could go get a selfie in front of your VMTN, icon, right? But
Nice.
literally, and we have some guys that are on the leaderboard, or that have these levels that haven't done anything in like 5 years, but they made genius level and they sit up at the top ranks, right? Because it does require an immense amount of time to actually to get to the point where you have novice to, I think I'm somewhere in the mid range, and I haven't done that much work, but we have some guys, and then we have moderators, right? So it's it's just you running the platform in the community program. So but then we do have moderators that are helping us every day manage all the content that's there, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Super helpful. They go in and let me know if there's anything, wrong going on in the communities, any spam, anything, abuse, harmful words, whatever. So they're super helpful to me because I couldn't, go around into every single community every day. So
Yeah, it is, and we're always thankful to the moderators. I think we try to always take them to moderator breakfast at VMworld when we get to see them and just how they're doing. A lot of moderators don't get out of their homes very often. Some of these guys are pretty focused on their daily jobs, and so
Yeah.
probably only maybe 20 or 30% of the moderators actually end up coming to VMworld, right? So it's pretty interesting there. Sometimes we have moderators quit. Do we bring in new moderators? Do we recruit now and then for new roles?
Yep. We had a few come in the last few months, so that was nice. They seem like they're, really excited to do it. So it's good to see.
Right. Yep. Excellent. And we do shout outs to them as well. Then we have things like Community Warrior program. Why don't you tell us a little about a Community Warrior? So this is just all what we've already got running. We're not talking about the upgrade and what Lithium has yet. We're going to get to Lithium and what this means to the BUs, and we should see some interesting things happen. But currently, Warrior, what is it? The VMTN Warrior program. What is that?
Yeah.
What are we doing there?
Yeah, so the Community Warrior program is something to, just point out the people that are going above and beyond in the community. It doesn't have to just be on VMTN. These are people who, are bloggers, do their own podcast, be experts, just people that are really involved in the VMware community. So, sometimes throughout the year, I'll ask for people to nominate them. Usually they come in from Twitter or just from the forums. And these people let me know, this person has helped me this way. I see them in the communities a lot. I see them helping people on Twitter. I see them, letting people know what it's like to be a V expert and what they can do to become one. So these people get nominated and chosen depending on, what they've done throughout the year, the past few months. I choose it every quarter. So we should be having one in the next month or so.
Right. And then we send them a brand new MacBook Pro. Is that how that works? Like something like that?
Close. Yeah.
Is it just it'd be even better is if we just sent them like a cool hat or something. That would even be better. Who needs a MacBook Pro? Macs are kind of
everyone's got them these days anyways.
Yeah, you get that from your work, right? But can you get a nice V Warrior hat? I don't think so.
Yeah.
MTN Warrior. All right, so that's kind of where community has been. And honestly, our community is kind of just, it's moved along. We've had a lot of, efforts to, make it better, engaging. The power sessions we do from VMTN, we do from V Brown Bag. We're always trying to sponsor things and make it better, the online experience, because a lot of people, that's how they experience our products. They come in, they get a community account, they come in and they ask questions. And so it's a great onboarding ramp for people to join the V community in a large sense. It's a first place you might get a community ID and actually then show up and start experiencing the V community, right? Yeah. On the community platform, it's communities.vmware.com. How do we, I think we have tabs there. How do we introduce more of the V community? So if VM10 is the on-ramp and communities.vmware.com is the home, how do we actually introduce everybody to additional things?
Yeah, so we're on Twitter. The handle's at VMTN Community. So definitely there. I post some links to forums, things that are going on in our team. So not just VMTN, but things that are going on with code or vExpert, different things like that. So yeah, you can find both of those and find out different information that you're looking for there.
Well, I know we also have the tabs at the top that expose kind of the other locations. So on communities.vmware.com, we actually have the tabs that showcase all the social channels, Twitter, Facebook.
Oh yeah, yeah. So vExpert, Code, CloudCred, Social, YouTube, VMUG, and then also obviously our blogs too, blog program.
Right. So if you come to communities.vmware.com, you get exposed to not only the forums, but then all the other community destinations that are out there. Right?
Yep, definitely.
Good. Do we run Reddits or other type of community activities, or not really?
Not formally. I have seen a lot of VMware stuff out there, but nothing formally for us.
Yeah, it's interesting that community, I call it the bifurcation of community or community segmentation based on type of activity or type of content, right? I definitely see that. Like VMUG focuses on a value prop of meeting people, right? So VMUGs, the whole idea of VMUGs is that I'm going to join a VMUG and I'm going to be in community because in physical presence with one another because they run VMUG meetings in my city. So that's a value prop. You have Reddits, which are kind of like ask anything, hipster, have cool conversations on cool topics. which is over there. We have like AHA, which is ideation, which is voting.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like some voting communities. So aha.io, I think it's called, or aha.com. AHA
Yeah.
is actually where you can go vote on ideas. And so a lot of people have gone over to AHA to do voting. I think the program managers and product delivery people use AHA for that community interaction. We have WordPress on blogs.vmware.com, which is community interaction. So you see the multiple platforms that are actually happening. There's no longer a single platform where you come be part of community. The online experience goes from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, to Reddit, to Twitter, to, blogs, to everybody
Yeah.
else's blogs, to the blog stream, the RSS blog stream. So I feel like community is just, and now we have podcasts and guests on podcasts. And when we started, there was one podcast. I think now there are like 10 different community podcasts that are happening weekly, or at a different cadence, right? That are talking, doing interviews, that kind of stuff. So YouTube shows, you can go subscribe to our show on V Barbecue, youtube.com/V Barbecue, VBARBECUE, and go watch our live stream. And there are a lot of other YouTube channels that also cover various components of that. So we're just seeing online community and community engagement happen in many more places now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so that's covering community, which is a good conversation to have, because over time, we're moving to a new platform, and some of these concepts of community in lots of different places, or community everywhere, or community as a service. There are services that offer community engagement. All that's going to kind of the things we're considering now when we're moving to a new platform. So maybe we can talk what platform. So Jive is no longer, Jive software, which
Right.
runs our community platform, is no longer. What's the story?
Yeah, so Jive end of life, I guess, sometime last year. Lithium acquired Jive. So we were originally thinking Lithium would be the perfect thing to move on to, just because they were supporting the Jive to Lithium migration. They recently got acquired by a company, Koros. So you will hear me and Eric probably switching back and forth between Lithium and Koros. Same thing though. So that's what we'll be moving on to.
Koros. How do you spell Koros?
KHOROS.
Koros. Okay. Sounds like an OS, but it's not. Right? Koros.
Yeah.
So Koros, let's see. So Jive went out of business, got acquired by Lithium. Lithium then got acquired, or I don't know what their deal was, but ended up with
Merged
Koros.
something, yeah.
Or rebranded itself and got more investment. I'm not sure which it was. And so now the whole thing is called Koros. So when we talk Koros, we're talking about a modern day community platform that they're offering. So our intention is to migrate to Koros. How are we going about doing that? Are we involving moderators? What's our timeline? Why don't you take us through, when do we expect to have new community, and then we'll talk about what new features we think we're going to get.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been working on it pretty much all year. We plan to have it done probably by beginning of August. The idea was to have it done before VMworld. So now that it's going to be online, trying to figure out something there, but definitely have involved moderators from the beginning, trying to get their feedback. We have, key stakeholders in the company as well that we're including, and getting, the feedback that they have given us based on the experience that they've had on the community platform. A lot of them come from different areas. So there's, people from betas, there's people from docs, people that kind of just use the private communities for a different reason or other. So trying to fit in everyone's needs into the new platform and making it a little bit easier to use and, just to manage as well.
So most people that have done a beta probably have been through the VMTN community to get our beta code and engage with it.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of work there, right? So big effort across many different people inside of VMware to make that happen, right? To upgrade. So if I have a community ID, do I keep having a community ID on the next platform?
Yeah, so it looks like for the most part they should stay the same. The only thing is there are some character count limits for the new platform. So that's one thing, and I think one other thing is just they don't allow periods in your username. So if you do have a community username with a period in it, it might transfer over as an underscore. That's probably something that you can change later on if you don't like what it looks like. But for the most part, I think everyone should be pretty safe.
Okay, so to summarize, we're going to go to the new platform. We're thinking late July, early August, before VMworld. And the impact to you as a listener is if you have a community ID that has a period in it, right? Or you have an extraordinary long number of characters in your community ID, that might change, right? So
Yep.
we use my VMware, we use your my VMware login. So your login doesn't change, but your community ID, what identifies you and your content, could be truncated or have a dash under it when we do the migration.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I know we've done a migration onto the platform already, and we do have a kind of an alpha version of it running on Lithium today, right? Which is interesting. The database is giant. I don't think we've ever done a super big cleanup since 2003. Take us through kind of some of the cleanup things that we're going to be doing when we move over. I think some content will go away. That
Yeah.
always freaks
So what
somebody out. What is content going away might make people nervous, especially if you've linked to it from blogs or other things. What's the model by which we think we're going to get rid of content or art?
Yeah, so we tried to keep as much as was relevant to today. We went ahead and looked at, the dates that these communities were created. We looked at the last time they had any activity. So whether it was from a blog, from a discussion, from a document. We also looked at the number of these content forms that they had, just because depending on how much it was used, we figured that those were probably the most important that needed to definitely move over. So I think we went with about 5 years old, unless it was something that was still really relevant. We kind of kept in our archiving. Also, private communities. We had, what was it, close to 3,000. So those were a lot of them definitely outdated from 2010 or 2013. So definitely had a lot of the private communities that were looking at archiving. But for the most part, what we plan to do is a coffee shop type model. So we have different coffee shops that we're coming up with, and what that means is that we'll have different products or communities that are going to be under these coffee shops, just to make it a little bit easier to navigate and uh, you know group together the ones that make sense and make it not so hard to try to find what you're looking for.
Right. So to summarize on the content migration, right? The We set rules. Anything newer than 5 years, you say basically probably going to keep it because it's relatively new, unless it was something that just didn't have any hits. Where it
Yeah,
was like
right.
20% of the content was there and had no views and no comments,
No
anything,
activity.
no
Yeah,
activity. And you went and looked at the content, it was nothing, right? So it
yeah,
was somebody's idea that they had for content. But anything newer than 5 years, we're going to keep. Then things that were older than 5 years, if it had traffic, right? Like if the content had traffic, there are
right.
popular community threads that are 10 years old, right, that have a lot of traffic, and so, or still have content in them, right? So anything that has traffic or is getting new content in it, we kept, right? But then things that were 10 years old that were very busy back in the day, like 2008, it was a popular area. But now, since 2010 or 11, it hasn't had anybody on it, doesn't have a lot of views, even though it was super popular back then for vSphere 3, right? The vSphere 3 is a good example of that, right? VI3, Virtual Infrastructure 3, I think it was called. That one, I think we archived, right? Because in
Yeah.
the end, there you can't even get a license for virtual VI3 any longer, right? So,
Right.
so I don't want. It's not called vSphere, but it's Virtual Infrastructure 3. You can't get a license for it. There are no new threads for the last 5 years. There was like a couple people asked some really, mundane questions on it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but that was it.
Yeah.
Those are ones that we're archiving. Now, we're not throwing anything away, right? We're just going to archive it. It just won't be in a directory structure any longer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
if, something comes up for some reason, one of these needs to be uncovered, we can, take that out of archive.
yeah, yeah. So that's good. Another piece that in the content migration betas, right? Oh, sorry, blogs. The Jive let you have a personal blog, right? And
Right.
the way I understand it, Lithium and Chorus doesn't support personal blogs any longer. So if
No.
you had a personal blog on VMTN, that guy's going to go away or get archived, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that
Yeah, but
makes
it's not
sense.
supported. So.
Yeah, most people aren't blogging on the community platform any longer. You can go spin up a free WordPress blog. We'll help you. We'll put you in our blog's RSS stream. So the idea of running blogs on your community platform, this comes back to the community bifurcation where, different platforms are getting very good at different things. Lithium absolutely still does forum, question, answer, best in the market, which is now Chorus. So that makes sense, but some of these other components like blogging, it just makes sense to support WordPress and have our whole RSS stream pull from all the different WordPresses. I think we have 700 WordPress blogs that end up in our RSS stream from the community, and that makes sense. And then you just turn off blogging on the community platform. All right, so that's where we are. Now you get into like what's new with Lithium. So the big thing that you started mentioning is that Lithium allows you to join a community. Jive, you couldn't join. You could join the overarching community, but you couldn't say, I want to join and let everybody know that you're a member of a sub-community or a vSphere or vSAN or NSX or desktop. Lithium does that now. So the platform allows you to come in and then join a given area. And that's where we've done talked about what are these areas going to be called. And you mentioned coffee house. So that's kind of that's not what we're actually going to call them in the platform, right?
Yeah.
It's just, that's the concept that if you want to come sit and have a cup of coffee and chat with community members on a given topic that's important to you, then come to the SDDC coffee house, right? So that's kind of how we're going to lay things out on Lithium, and you then can become a member of a given coffee house. That impacts, and I'll now ask you a question, that impacts, if we have coffee houses, what that impacts the staff of who's managing the coffee house. Because we've never had coffee houses. You can never have a community of owned set of people. 4,000 people have joined the desktop coffee house. How are we going to manage it differently?
Yeah, so that's something that we have talked about in the past, but didn't really have as much of a need for as we do now. So the idea with these is we already have people that usually manage the higher level communities, but what we've figured would probably make the most sense is, since there will be communities under these coffee shops, we plan to have a director level at the coffee shop level. So, 1 to 2 directors at each coffee shop, depending on how big it is or how much content there is underneath it. So director level will be there. And then underneath that director, we'll have managers that are going to be managing the, day-to-day kind of the community. Then we'll have, contributors for each community that just come in, and they're actually going to be the ones that are, posting, commenting, that kind of thing in the communities. And then obviously we definitely are going to be keeping the moderators that do help us so much in all these communities.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because I like to use the example of Carbon Black. So we purchased Carbon Black last year, acquired them as a company. We've kept their brand, we keep their technology. They have a 20,000 person community. They actually have migrated to Chorus as well. And so they want to be on board, but they don't want to lose their brand identity. They don't want to lose that camaraderie. And actually, if you look at security, you don't actually get to be in their community unless you get invited, right? You actually have to be a customer, be invited in for them to accept you into their security community, because security is that way, right? Security tends to be very secure. So this model allows the Carbon Black Coffee House, right, to be spun up. They can have their own brand, right, inside. They'll be embedded in VMTN, but they'll have their own branding. They'll have their own leadership. And that's the interesting
Yeah.
thing that you mentioned about leadership. A director for a coffee house, which is really the leadership of that community, can be not only a VMware employee, it can be anybody, right?
Yeah,
Leadership will just be
definitely.
voted on.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like
definitely.
what we did with the vExpert program when we took vExpert and we have the community working on the application for vExpert, and Corey talks about that and the stuff that we're working with, and the team and the community members and the vExpert pros that are helping manage that. From a community coffee house perspective, or I should call it a coffee house, not a coffee shop, because that's very European. You go to a coffee house, and it has a lot of interesting personality to it. Coffee shop for me feels like I just bought a coffee and left. Coffee
Yeah, for
house
sure.
is where you go ahead and hang out and
Hang out.
listen to poetry and click your fingers, right? So it's kind of a cool space. So coffee houses are being spun up. I know that we have an SDDC coffee house, and we actually have a leader who's really excited about, owning that coffee house, having members be part of that coffee house. And these coffee houses are focused on what your job role would be, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of how we looked at it, right?
Definitely.
So do you know off the top of your head any other coffee houses that are of note?
Yeah, so one of the bigger ones also was digital workspace. So that's going to include like Workspace One, Fusion, that kind of thing. We also had networking, one for VMware Code, for the betas, education, and certifications.
Right.
I think we had a
And
support and a
right,
few others.
few others. I think that's interesting, and I think it's fun that we can actually have, people that are super interested in that topic, become the leader of that community, run what that branding looks like, run what the content looks like on the front page.
Definitely.
And I know that we're doing some rebranding of the content as well, right? So I know that we've gotten a whole new look and feels, really modern, nice. I want to
Yep.
say hipster. Is there a female version of hipster? Is it hip? Really
Probably
hipster.
just encompasses
Yeah,
everything.
I don't think it's yeah, that's good. Okay, so that'll be nice. New branding, membership, leadership by the community. So directors can be nominated that's going to run that community. And then you actually have kind of a membership section now that allows everybody to see who has joined a given community. Then we can have communication directly to the members for
Yep.
those communities.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it'll be a great new model that people will enjoy.
Right. I'm looking forward to that. And then there are plugins that allow us to pull content from other things like Slack channels and other community platforms, AHA, where you can come into a coffee shop and they can sell you a bagel, right? Or they can sell you a piece of cake, right? And we don't bake the cake. We pull the cake from a SaaS service, right? Whether it be a Slack cake or a different service. The coffee shop will offer things beyond just what the Lithium Chorus platform actually offers.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that all makes sense. I'm excited about it because since I've worked at VMware since 2007, we've been on the current version of Jive, which is getting along in the tooth and really didn't do a good job integrating and allowing you to join and engaging. So that's good. What is the timeline for the upgrade? Is there going to be a beta? Are we inviting select people to this effort? And if you're a community leader and you think this is interesting and you're listening to this podcast, can they reach out to you to maybe become one of the managers or even a director for a given coffee house?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, yes, we will be having a beta. We plan to have our key stakeholders, moderators, and again, if anyone else listening is interested, please let me know. And as far as being a community leader, also definitely you can reach out to me on either Twitter at Jenny VMTN, that's JENNI VMTN, or you can email communitygroup@vmware.com. I can also get it from there.
Okay, perfect. On the chat, Graham does mention that there's still people running 2008 R2 servers out there, so anything of that vintage is still relevant. Yeah, there definitely was a lot of the 2008, even 2007, even some threads from 2001 that made a lot of sense. We did look at all the products, right, and what the usage of the product. Were there any relevant questions in the threads at all?
Yeah.
And so we did definitely look at that. There were a couple instances where there was still somebody running something that you could barely get a license to, and so we've end of lifed a lot of that stuff. Now, having said that, you can still come in and create a thread somewhere under vSphere, right? I mean, it isn't like we're not saying you can't come in and ask a question, but it's just a question of how many topic categories are we going to actually have, right? So just so that we'll have a miscellaneous in vSphere under the community, and the coffee house leadership should be able to answer those questions. Yeah, and Graham, you're right. If you're searching on Google and you do find a super old answer that's an answer in communities, can you click on it and go there? And the answer is yes, I think so, because we're archiving things and the links will kind of flip over to the archive space, but you won't see that community and you won't see that stuff in the hierarchy of navigation. But all the stuff that we do archive, the Google search links will still come over and find that stuff, right? So
yeah, I think what might happen, which is what currently happens if something is archived, is it gives you a message to email the community manager. So I have gotten multiple emails about people wanting to see something that's archived. So that's one way to go about it, because the content will still be there. It's just that it won't be viewable for everyone.
But what I would say is there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs of having a platform keep everything versus the speed of the platform. So when we actually looked at the entire platform, I think we had 6,000 or so, or 7,000 community locations or forums out there. And if you start looking at the indexes and how long it takes to look through the tree when you're doing a search or finding content, there is a rationale behind how large you want to keep things and what that benefit is versus making everybody sit and wait an extra 10 seconds to search on things. So there absolutely is trade-offs there. We do have archive. The stuff's going to stay there. But over time, yeah, we're going to turn stuff off at some point. So there were definitely 2006 stuff where we're like, I think a lot of the private stuff we just deleted. I think we had a deleted bucket, right? That we didn't delete everything. We put it in a deleted bucket. Where the archive stuff, we actually gave it an individual thread in the archive. Where there were deleted stuff where we were just like, no one's ever going to use this. Let's just delete it. And it just went into a single bucket. So it's still there. We didn't throw anything away, right? So people listening to this can breathe a sigh of relief. I don't think we haven't thrown anything away. I'm not a big fan of throwing things away. But we did make one bucket so that instead of having 3,000 individual threads that had 3 messages in it, we're just going to have one thread that has all the message IDs in that location. So if we really need to go search on something because it turned out it was super popular or somebody needs it for reference, there is a way to get at it. Right? I don't think we're throwing anything away.
No.
Other than blogs. I think blogs, if you were a blogger and you had a private blog on the community, we will send this out to people. If you had a private blog and you had blog articles, those blog articles will get thrown away, right? I don't think there was any place to put them. So I don't remember that though. Did we have a place to put the blog? I think it gets nuked. So
yeah, I think so.
Get that message out. I think there were like 400 users that had blogs that were
if that many. Yeah, at max it was 400, but I think it was even smaller than that. And I feel like most of them also just had like 1 or 2, so they probably didn't even remember.
Right. So that should be exciting. I'm super jazzed about the coffee house idea, right? Like I've wanted coffee houses and the ability to join a coffee house and then give away things to coffee houses and just make want it to be, and this is role based. So one of the coffee houses we're going to run is a social media evangelist, influencer coffee house. So if you want to, instead of everything just lined up by social channels, you want to come into that coffee house, we're going to be running stuff in that coffee house around the experts. So we are going to use this platform to engage with the community, right? Around conversations around the experts and social media and influencer briefings. And we really haven't had a home for influencers. We kind of got the VExpert app, which is really nice. Love that. But we also have the social channels, the Facebook channel, LinkedIn channel, the tabs over here. There's a lot of different places. So by having a coffee house that we can just talk about influencer marketing, we can actually do that. Another coffee house I like is a careers coffee house. So we can actually have a place for job postings and a place, what does it mean? What certifications do you need? So getting a director and community structure for owning what's the career options for everybody listening to this podcast, right? Where are you? How much are you getting paid? What's the relevant salary? I know we get in trouble for some of that, so we have to be careful how much. We don't want to be a competitor to make people leave their job. But we do actually want to have a career guidance section as part of the V community offerings. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
Definitely.
All right, so you're going to be busy between now and in September before VMworld. Hopefully this will all come online and be a resource for people that are doing online stuff. So excited
Definitely.
About it.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, just let either of us know if you want to become a leader of the community or just want any information on it.
Right. Or if you really have an idea for a coffee house that you just think you've always wanted to build for the V community, certainly willing to listen to ideas. So your Twitter handle again, Jenny, is?
Jenny VMTN.
Jenny VMTN. Jenny VMTN.
Jenni.
Oh, Jenni. Wow,
yes.
I'll remember that. Jenni at VMTN. So give her a follow, Jenny. It's great. I know you've kind of come into your own. You had big shoes to fill when Katie Bradley left, but now people tell me, "Oh, Jenny, yep, you're becoming an icon." So that's also very cool. And if we get over to Koros, and don't make too many people angry because there's always trade-offs. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, this is it. Next week, we do have Rory from Test Drive. So Rory couldn't make it today, so we just thought we'd take you through the community upgrade progress. Next week, we are going to be doing Test Drive. So if you haven't used Test Drive yet, it's kind of like how to do an online POC, get access to our software, get accounts, log in without having to do your own install in your home lab. And they are going to offer everybody free VExperts, all VExperts, or anybody that's in the V community that reaches out to us, we can get you a perpetual Test Drive account, or at least a longer version of a test drive account that you can get access and get software installed for you to potentially show your customers or just learn what you're doing. So that will be on for next week. The guy's name is Rory, works at VMware. He's I think a director VP, and he is really excited about working with the V community influencers, getting people on board Test Drive. I've wanted Test Drive for a long time. Like we give away free licenses, but as we move into SaaS services, how do you get access to things, right? So these services will have Test Drive accounts. Now they're trying to figure out like how much it's going to cost us to give all the experts Test Drive accounts and unlimited, that kind of stuff. But that's going to be next week. Test Drive from VMware. You can go to testdrive.vmware.com right now if you want to go check it out before we get on this call. For next week, he's booked, so we're good there. And V Barbecue. So I don't think Tony Foster, I don't know if Tony Foster's on the line. Don't see him today, but I will say that I did barbecue. Let's see, yesterday I made ribs. We called it the COVID salad. Right, so and it was 2 slabs of ribs. We use Mr. Stubbs barbecue rub. So I'm a big dry rub rib fan. So you just dry rub them, and then snake charcoal, where you put charcoal all the way around the outside of the grill in like a snake, and then you light one side of the charcoal, and the charcoal is like in a 4-brick line. The snake is only about 4 bricks wide, goes all the way around the Kingsford Circle barbecue, and you light one circle of that, and that burns over like 4 hours, right? So you slow cook, smoke your ribs with a dry rub for 4 hours, and you're basically smoking your ribs while they slow cook, and you keep it inside in there maybe 160 170 degrees, and it makes fantastic ribs. I'm not in Texas, but I do like a good COVID salad. I shouldn't joke about COVID-19, but I'll throw out a couple guys, a couple of community members mentioned COVID drinks and COVID coffee. That was it. Roger Lund threw out a COVID coffee, and the COVID coffee was basically a margarita. Right? So he goes, COVID coffee, it's a margarita with no coffee. Right? So my COVID salad is a rack of ribs smoked over 4 or 5 hours and no lettuce. So that's it. Got to keep up your sense of humor. We're looking forward to next week. Jenny Gonzalez, JENNI, VMTN. Give her a follow and get ready to be involved in the online community, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I've been wanting this for about 10 years now. So I'm really excited about moving forward. So thanks for coming on the show and chatting with me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. With that, it is a wonderful day. Everybody, stay sane while you're working from home. Hopefully, we'll get through getting a little bit out in the society and spending some time interacting with our hands washed and maybe a face mask on. But hopefully, it'll get better, and we will let you know as we learn more about what does it mean to do a V Brown Bag session online for VMworld. We'll keep everybody updated, and until then, stay sane. Talk to you guys later.
Recording paused.
All right.